Hey there, are you getting excited to start medical school or just in the first couple weeks of class and thinking, whoa, what have I gotten myself into? Well, I'm here for you. I'm Dr. Bates, and this is Musculoskeletal Minute. I'm cross posting this between my YouTube and also my podcast because I feel like this is such important information. For those of you listening that are attendings, residents, anywhere along the training platform, go ahead, listen. I'd love to hear your experiences. Go ahead and leave a comment below to start the conversation, to provide some advice to the medical students. I feel as though this is important because it is my story about what I wish I knew starting medical school. Medical school is a completely different ballgame than most likely anything that you have ever experienced before. And honestly, it's scary and it's a rough transition, and so many people are going to be giving you advice. So let's start out with my first piece of advice. Don't take everyone's advice. I know that's pretty ironic coming from me offering you advice, but everybody is going to be giving you advice, whether they've gone through medical school before or they haven't. They will give you advice on how to do it, how to live your life. And honestly, everybody is different. And you need to remember that. And you need to find what works for you. So it's a little facetious, but it is also good, solid advice. Everybody's going to give you advice, but you're the only one that knows yourself. Remember, what works for someone might not work for you. Also, everybody likes to act like they were extremely successful in med school, but not everybody was. So who knows the quality of advice that you're getting? But let me tell you what, I made it, so can you. I will cover what I did to study at the end of this video, so stick around for that. Try to remember what worked for you through undergrad. Even though it's a completely different rate of study, the things that worked best for you probably should then be optimized as opposed to starting completely from new. The advice that I'm going to give you in this video is not about how to study. It is about how to live your life. And this is something absolutely vital. And yes, while my first piece of advice is to not listen to everybody's advice, I highly encourage you to listen to these couple parts and apply them as best you can. First of all, is remember who you are. There is something unique about you that makes you, you. And that is what your med school admission committee wanted. They wanted you. You had to do a lot of things to get into med school. Keep some of those interests. And don't forget to have interests outside of medicine. For me, my big interest was mountain biking. I absolutely love mountain biking, and it got me through med school. My first year of med school, I decided I needed to prioritize studying over everything, and I got burnt out and my grades suffered. I decided to get back to doing the things that I love, which is mountain biking and getting outside, and my grades went up so much. So find something that you enjoy and make sure that you spend time doing it. My next piece of advice is to know the difference between education and learning. You are in medical school. You are getting an education. You are paying a lot of money for that education, and it will serve you well. But remember that there is also so much additional learning that should be done that can benefit you as a doctor. There will be lectures during lunch. While they will not be on your test, they will be things that will benefit you to make you a better person and a better doctor. I highly encourage you to go to those. Even if it's in an area that you don't think you're interested in, take advantage of it. One, they generally have free lunch. And two, it is good to get a well-rounded medical education to learn more about things. Maybe you'll discover a specialty that you wouldn't have otherwise. But remember, the education is what you're getting in the classroom. It's what you're studying for. It's what you're tested on. But you also need to learn so many things about medicine that really aren't the things that are going to be tested. And this leads into a slight little side note. A lot of people push early board studying. And yes, boards are important. It will be interesting to see how boards change with step one going to pass-fail. But I would encourage you to make sure that you're learning the material for your class and not just the stuff for boards. Again, so many things are going to come up in your clinical practice. I am shocked by how many things come up on a fairly regular basis where it's like, wow, I remember learning something about that, or this is related to something that I learned. And while it may or may not have been on the boards, it's something that's beneficial. Remember the difference between education and learning. Keep an open mind about what you are learning, and you might actually end up liking it. This, admittedly, is one of the things that I really struggled with. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do, and the things that I thought didn't relate to it, I didn't care to study them so much. Things have changed a little bit. I'm a primary care physician right now after just completing my intern year. I will absolutely continue on to do residency in the area of medicine that I really enjoy, which is the musculoskeletal system. But I still have a lot of things that I see every day as a primary care doc that were part of the things that I found less interesting in med school. And when I rotated in my choice specialty, physical medicine and rehabilitation, absolutely love the specialty, I found that there was a lot more connection to the other systems than I realized. So I really wish that over my first couple of years of med school, I would have paid more attention to some of those things that I didn't like as much, because they absolutely come around, one, in general medicine practice, and two, of being a better specialist. A good specialist still remembers good medicine. The dermatologist that I spent time with as an intern was an absolutely brilliant doctor, not just with dermatology and Mohs surgery, which he did, but he knew so much about all sorts of other medical conditions. It was astounding. And I admit my preconceived notion of what a dermatologist would be, of just focusing on the skin, I didn't really figure that they would have as much understanding and interplay of pharmacology along with different medical conditions, but he knew it, and it was great to see. Unfortunately, I didn't see that until I was an intern. It would have been really motivating to me to take better interest earlier on in medical school. So keep an open mind about what you are learning and explore all of the options before choosing a specialty, even if you know that's what you want to do. Ultimately, I'm going to end up in the specialty that I started medical school thinking I wanted to do, but I've taken a detour and I'm spending 4 years as a general practitioner. I do have an exercise and some homework for you. I hope you're okay with that. Take a minute. It can be right after watching this video, but I don't want it to go more than 2 days. I want you to take out a piece of paper, open a Google Doc, whatever form you best prefer journaling in and getting your thoughts out on paper or digital format. I want you to write down why you decided to pursue medicine. Not what you wrote in your personal statement. I'm sure your personal statement was great. What is the true, deep desires of your heart that you wanted to get out of medicine? What was it that pushed you through OChem to get you into med school? It definitely wasn't the thought of getting into med school. There was something deeper that you wanted to do. Write that down. You're going to need to refer to that through your time in med school. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to take some time in studying, and it's going to take, unfortunately, some sacrifices. Having that written down that you can turn to when you're feeling down and wondering what you're doing there will be an immense help to get you through your challenge. So please, write down your why. I know that I just said that med school requires some sacrifice, and it does. It does not require 12 hours a day every single day. Make sure you have time for yourself, which goes right along with my first word of advice, which is remember who you are and make time for yourself. I took Friday night off after class. I didn't study. Saturday morning, I got up and I went mountain biking, or I did something else outside, and I studied the rest of Saturday afternoon. And I tried to not study on Sunday, but occasionally it happened. It depends on the test, but I know that no matter how busy I was taking that Friday evening off after class, and I was taking that Saturday morning to do something that I enjoyed. So make sure you take some time for yourself. Try to be there for your family. Try to be there for your friends. Again, it's going to take some sacrifice, but don't let it take your entire life. Thank you for sticking around until the end here. This is where I talk about what I did Again, this worked for me. It didn't work for my other classmates, but it worked for me. I thought I would share it as an idea for anybody that is looking for ideas on what to do to study. I'm a big picture person, and I also get easily distracted. So I played in on that. I started with the big picture and then moved into the smaller things, and I made sure I took breaks frequently. So what did I do? Eventually, I learned that it was actually okay to skip lectures. At my school, it was fine to skip lectures. They recorded the lectures, and I could play it on double speed. It was great. So I stopped going to the lectures. I utilized that time efficiently to get a workout in, and then I got started on the previous lectures. I would listen to it at double speed, but I would take breaks every 25 minutes, and I would get up, I would walk around, I would move, and then I'd get back down to watching the lectures. After the lecture, I would utilize books, apps, PowerPoints, whatever was needed to supplement what was taught in the lecture. But I used the lecture as the basic framework and then supplemented it as needed. One of the things that I did, especially during endocrine and other complicated systems with a lot of interplays and diagrams, is I drew it out. And sometimes I would even draw it out on individual note cards with different arrows and the different names of the enzymes, for example, for like Krebs cycle. And I would have the different enzymes there and the arrows, and I would put the cards in. I would scramble them up. I'd have blank spaces, and then I would quiz myself on what the blank spaces were. So that is one of the things that I did to keep myself more active, to keep my attention focused. Other systems, it wasn't so easy to be making these note cards, so I did what I could. I drew out the musculoskeletal system on things. GI system, I really don't have any advice for you on that one. That was not a fun time. So again, lectures at double speed, taking breaks frequently, supplementing with the books, trying to get moving, utilizing creative ways to study that. And then I would do practice questions. It's great when books have practice questions, board study questions too. Keep it within the subject matter. I would do questions, and then I would go for walks listening to board study review recordings. And I would go for walks, and then I would do more questions, and I would study the questions and what I got wrong. That was my optimal. That's what worked best for me. You can start there if you want. I recommend starting with what you did in undergraduate and just building from there and making sure that you optimize it, because somewhere along the way you were doing studies that helped you. You just need to make sure that you optimize it, because the amount of information that you are learning is at such a rapid pace. I know for me, in a 2-hour lecture, we covered one entire semester undergraduate developmental biology course. Yeah, you need to optimize your studying for that. So take what you got, try to optimize it. Ask people, definitely ask people, get their opinions. But remember, when push comes to shove, don't take everyone's advice. Remember who you are and take time for yourself. Know the difference between education and learning. Keep an open mind about what you are learning. And also, write down your why. Feel free to reach out to me through any social media platform. I am on Facebook, Musculoskeletal Minute, Instagram, Musculoskeletal Minute. I also have a new podcast called Underrated in Medicine. You can find it most places you find podcasts, where I talk about some of these other things that you're not really learning in medical school. And I interview people that are doing things that are underrated in medicine, the things that we didn't learn about in med school, about the practice of medicine and also the practice of life. Please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to Musculoskeletal Minute, leave me a positive review, and overall, best of luck with medical school. You can do it. I believe in you, and if you need any help, go ahead and reach on out.